Welcome everyone. Again, this is our weekly live Q&A. Here to answer any health fitness questions you may have. Feel free to throw your questions in the chat and I will get to them as I see them come up. If you're watching on the replay, feel free to throw your questions in still. I'll cover them in the next week's live Q&A as we go from there. And then I've got, speaking of replay views, I've got a earlier submitted question. I'm gonna throw it in the chat here for everyone to read. I'll kind of go through it quickly. Essentially, synopsis of the question is there about how sore should you get from a workout, and then what does recovery look like, and when is it okay to resume exercising either the same exercise that caused it or just in general kind of the same muscle group, so to speak. So there's a couple different levels and layers here. I'm trying to go through most of it. So typically when we train in any capacity, if we hit a threshold of overload, meaning that we've kind of hit slightly at or beyond the current levels of what your body's capable of doing easily, we have a response that's felt as soreness. It's generally believed that this is the body trying to repair the muscle tissue that is damaged during the process of the repeated muscle contractions and the tension overload that was put on the muscles in order to help make them stronger, make them be able to produce more force, and just be able to handle more of the loading of the resistance that's put on there. And this is the primary thing where we're looking at for people trying to put on muscle that we do want to kind of see to a certain extent. There's some back and forth in the science community as to whether or not it's necessary. While some argue that it's not, most argue that in practice, no one who doesn't get sore really sees major muscle and strength development. So kind of take that for what you will. What I look at for clients is typically we expect some sort of soreness because if there isn't, the likelihood that we're challenging the body enough to stimulate major change, whether that be muscle development, whether that be burning enough calories during the workout and then stimulating an afterburn effect to where we've challenged the body so much that it's expending additional calories post-workout for a period of time while it's helping the muscle and other systems recover from the challenges and demands that were put on the body during the workout. So would you typically say you should expect some soreness to occur? However, what for especially novices, what I never really want is you getting so debilitatingly sore that now we're avoiding other day-to-day movement and tasks because of how intense that soreness is and how sensitive you are to maybe moving your legs or grabbing and picking up things around the house or around work. It's a very fine line there. A lot of muscle heads and diehard will say that getting that sore is great because it means you hit complete overload and you'll get the most response back. But the challenge is for general population, the recovery from that is too difficult and it limits your pursuing movement outside the gym to be sustainable, because for one, if you do that a couple times and you're brand new to it, you're probably not going to come back again. And two, it's just expecting that level of intensity every time is not sustainable. And going to kind of the second phase of this question of when is it okay to resume, that becomes an issue because if we're still, towing that line of debilitatingly sore and it's time to come in and work out again, if we do that too frequently, we hit major overtraining points where our body is too stressed and too fatigued to, one, see functional improvements, whether it be strength improvements, stamina improvements, muscle building improvements. And now we're putting our body just into a pretty much constant state of stress, which will start inhibiting in other areas, energy diminishment, focus issues, constantly fatigued and tired. So you want to kind of balance things. So we want some soreness. What we look at is soreness should begin somewhere around that 12 to 24 hour mark. And then it's going to, typically it will peak around 24 to 48 hours. And ideally it starts to subside after that. Once you've hit the point where the soreness is kind of starting to subside from where it peaked, then it's okay to enter into retraining that muscle area again at a capacity that will probably cause soreness to repeat itself. You can do kind of light loading and very moderate use of the muscle area that's sore. If it's before we've hit that major peak, it's okay to do some movements, help with range of motion, stretching. It helps increase the blood flow. A lot of people believe that helps make the soreness go away quicker because we're getting more blood flow, and therefore any things causing soreness are flushed out, and then replenishment nutrients are pumped in to make that process speed up. But you don't want to do another hard and heavy lift or workout that was similar to what causes soreness until we're starting to see improvement in the level of soreness occur. Let's see here. So we covered that part. Okay, so that was what I wanted to kind of add to this. So 48 hours is typical kind of peak max duration of when we start to get better. For clients and really anyone who asks me, if you're getting peak soreness and it's staying well over that 48-hour mark, we've got to look at either, are you overtraining? And then there's three other elements that we look at to see, is your body recovering effectively? So the three biggest things that impact the body's ability to recover in regards to healing muscle soreness, protein intake is key. If you're not getting enough protein, your body can't repair that muscle tissue, and you will be sore for much longer periods of time. Water is next. If muscle tissue is about 70% water, so if you're chronically dehydrated, it's going to stay tight, it's going to stay stiff, and it's going to be sore more chronically than if you were fully hydrated. And then the other factor is rest and sleep. Are you getting enough sleep and rest to allow the body to recover? So sleep is first and foremost, because that's when we have the most amount of cellular regeneration occur. But rest is also a factor to consider too, because if you're working out super hard to make your body sore, but you also have very physically demanding labor that you're going to be doing, whether it's for work, whether it's house projects or anything of that nature. So the body's never really getting that time off to repair and recover. That can be a factor too. So again, protein, hydration, and rest are the three biggest factors that impact the length of time for that soreness and healing as well. Protein wise, typical train that I recommend for people that is just to keep it simple and easy, 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. So not necessarily your current body weight, but what goal weight are we trying to get to? So if you're trying to reduce your weight, your goal weight is what we calculate that off of. If you're trying to build and gain more muscle to increase your weight, we would want to calculate off of that. Hitting that number pretty much guarantees that we're getting enough protein to stimulate what's called muscle protein synthesis. So that's the real issue. Is a lot of people, there's the RDA protein, which is fairly low, that doesn't stimulate major muscle protein synthesis for repairing and building on muscle tissue, especially when we're taxing it, damaging it, and needing it to grow, repair, and get better than what it was before. Protein's very key there. And then again, hydration. Typical train with that one is 1 ounce per pound of body weight. Um, just to make it simple, easy. And then caveats with that: if you're any duration of workout, 30 minutes, usually want to add another cup or 8 ounces to that target number. Hours outside, add another cup, or which is 8 ounces to that number for each hour that you're outside. So just things to kind of keep in mind, especially as we enter the summer months. All of those will play a factor. And then the 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night is really the kind of one of the other key factors for helping the body repair and recover for that muscle damage that happens from our workouts. We want the soreness to alleviate before we train again with it. So typically most split routines, somewhere between 2 to 3 days before we repeat the same actions or same muscle engagement, is typical rule for most workout programs. Anything more frequent than that, that's when we risk hitting kind of that overtraining effect where the body is just never able to truly repair. And all we're doing is we're breaking it down, we're breaking it down more, we're breaking it down more, and we've broken it down even more. Yeah, we'll take, maybe we'll get a couple of days off for the weekend. So we come back in closer, but we're never really getting past where we started from when we first entered. So very quickly, it's easy to see like, hey, I don't think we're working the right way. I'm getting sore. I'm sore all the time, but I'm not seeing any progress. Again, progress, what we look at is either elements of strength, stamina, and recovery. So strength is just pretty simple, just the amount of weight you're able to move in the exercise. Stamina is either how long you can go for, how many repetitions you do. And the other element is recovery. So there's two elements to the recovery: is how long you need in between sets, and then how long you need in between workouts to go again at the same intensity. So all of those elements kind of come together and seeing, am I improving? And if you're not and you're sore all the time, then we need to look at your recovery aspect. Are we overtraining, meaning training too frequently or training too hard and not nourishing, resting, and hydrating enough to let the body repair? So those are kind of the factors to kind of look at and think about. I hope they answered everything. If not, feel free to throw some follow-up questions in there. I'm more than happy to continue on the topic next week. Otherwise, hope everyone can add this information to improve their workouts and their training for more effective process. And have a wonderful week. And remember to stay persistent in your consistent pursuit of health.